All right, well, it is right at 12 and I know there's probably a few more people getting on, but I wanted to go ahead and get started with today's FDI presentation. I'm Brenda McAdoo and I'm the director of the online undergraduate criminal justice program. And I'm super excited about today's presentation. I love it when we get to hear about things that are going to be practical for us in our jobs, especially just looking at what are the different standards for all of our programs with graduate and undergraduate, and seeing what we can do to better our courses. And so I can't think of anybody better to talk about it than Dr. Amanda. So I want to tell you a little bit about Amanda and Lacey, who is going to be helping Amanda do the presentation, and then turn it over to them. So today, the presentation is called Course Design Standards. Why do we need them? But is also going to be a look at how can we best develop our courses, redesign our courses, do the best thing in all of our classes for our students, which is really our goal for all of, for them to have such a great experience as they're going through things. So Dr. Amanda obviously just became a doctor recently. We're so proud of her. She's the director for Instructional Design and Development at ACU. Her role mainly covers overseeing the course design and development of online graduate and undergraduate courses for all of ACU Dallas. She specializes in adult learning theory, best practices for online instruction, and utilizing technology. And I love that she brings to every kickoff meeting that we have for course design, great ideas and just energy for helping us design the best classes ever. And with her today is one of her new hires who I've had a chance to meet. So this is Lacey Castleman, which I love your last name. So Lacey came to us from Collin College most recently, but she has a bachelor's in business administration and accounting, and then a master's in education, both from Texas State, as I understand. So we're so excited to have you. And so she's helping out with course design and curriculum. And I understand she's going to also be helping out with reviewing the courses once they're developed. So excited to be able to work with you with that. But right now, I just want to turn it over to Amanda. Thank you so much for being here with us, everyone.
Thank you, Brenda. Thank you all for letting us join you guys. It's such fun to see all these faces pop up. I know some of you I see all the time, and some of you it's been a while. So it's great to kind of see your faces again. We're hopeful that this presentation is helpful. I know some of you have been with us for a while, but hopefully you get one thing out of this meeting. And I'm really excited to hopefully have some great discussion with you guys as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lacey. Thank you for the introduction, and I do look forward to talking with you today. And we thank you for your time and allowing us to share this space with you all. So I'll go ahead and get us started on covering what we're going to talk about. Today, we're going to start with providing you a brief overview of the history of our standards at ACU Dallas and the role that they have on the student experience. And with that, we'll share research on best practices that have shaped and guided the implementation of standards at our university, which will then lead us into discussion of our current standards and how we partner with academics to implement them at the graduate and undergraduate level, because as we'll talk about today, they do differ at the graduate and undergraduate level. They have separate standards. And then towards the end of our presentation, we will cover how we work to maintain these standards and how we're working towards continuous improvement for the online learning experience through our department processes and our committee research.
Thank you. All right. So to give you guys a little bit of background on standards, I know we have some folks who've been with us since the beginning and some who are new. So I always think it's helpful to kind of set the stage of where we came from. So when we first started, we did not have standards. It's lovingly referred to as the Wild West in those timeframes. So really, we were just getting courses going. We were getting them up there and online for our students. And then we realized that it would be helpful to have some structure around what we're doing here. So 4 years ago only is when grad standards were created. So we're still relatively new in ACU Dallas's history of having standards. So this is, think back like Joey Cope kind of time frame in when we started to develop some standards. So a group of folks from academics, as well as myself, sat on a committee and we made some standards, and we tried to just provide a base level for what it means to have a quality course at ACU. Like what should every course have? What would be helpful? A lot of it was pretty intuitive, like, hey, we should probably put rubrics in our courses, right? So, but just kind of setting some base level standards for what we should have in standards. And then we allowed some programmatic standards to happen, right? So this is back when we just had grad. So we knew we needed a base level, but then we knew that the EDD program, right, is going to look a little different than the MBA program. And so then we allowed some standards based on program. And so that's where programmatic standards developed from. And so we had kind of two groups of standards we were working from. And then, as everybody knows, about 2 years ago, we decided to launch undergrad, and we launched undergrad really quickly. And when we looked at our standards for grad, we went, ooh, those probably aren't going to work for undergrad. And so this is kind of Dr. Sarah Lee timeframe. She worked to develop some standards for our undergrad population that were kind of developed from what we already had for grad. So that's kind of the evolution of how our history has occurred. We have over time held different like task force or committees when there's something that's needed to change kind of overall for our standards and getting them revised. The whole reason ACU developed standards, why we wanted some standards, was just to ensure a base level quality in our courses, right? Ensure that we had some things we knew or were guaranteed going into our courses. It also serves as a training tool for our course development, right? It's pretty intensive to try to train every faculty or every subject matter expert, SME, every program director on, you know, hey, here's every best practice in online learning, right? That's difficult, it's time consuming. And so, but our standards allow the instructional design team to have those conversations one-on-one with different faculty or SMEs or program directors as they're developing courses. And then there's some kind of just technical things for why we have standards. We have financial aid regulations, we have academic attendance policies, things that we have to hold our students to, and we are held to by outside agencies. And so our standards ensure that we can meet those things. So for example, our students have to show some sort of substantive activity each week. So having something required each week is a standard, not only it allows us to then meet that later on. So there's many factors that go into these standards and maybe why a standard might be enforced here. And then finally, our goal here at ACU for the standards is to have a positive impact on that student experience. So ensuring consistency across courses. This may be not so much in the grad programs, right? Because typically a student's going to take, you know, all MFT courses, right? They're not bouncing around. Our undergrad students, however, they're taking courses all over the place, right? They've got gen eds, they might take a psych course, they might go take a nutrition course, right? Because they've got all these gen eds that they're taking. And so having some of these standards help ensure that as our students move from course to course and they're taking multiple classes at a time, they at least know where to find their materials, right? So helping to reduce that cognitive load where they're focused on what am I learning for the week versus where the heck do I find what I'm supposed to read for the week, right? So that's the goal with having some of that. And then finally, as the ID department is trying to manage all of the resources you guys have, all of the different tools like Circle In and tutor.com and the library and the writing center, we're trying to make sure that those resources that we provide to students, that they always know where to find them. They know that on their homepage of every course is a link to the distance learning portal, right? So we help provide some consistency for our students in that and making sure that their resources are available and embedded in every single course that they take. So that's a little bit of kind of the background of our standards and our philosophy of where they come from.
Thank you. Yes. And that is one of our biggest challenge, right? Is there's research has found that there's no agreed upon definition of online course standards. So how do we define them here at ACU? But nevertheless, no matter what the undecided or agreements on, what has been agreed on is research has found that when no standards at all are established, the institution is impacted negatively. So bottom line, we know that we have to set some sort of standards that will improve our programs, our courses, and the learning experience for our students. And research has come across common trends throughout the studies of what is considered best practice. So while there might not be specific and standards identified at the national level, we can identify best practices to help shape our course standards. So for example, let's talk a little bit about each of these and how they're addressed at ACU. So we know that our learning objectives are provided in the introduction page. So all students can see with each week what they're going to be learning that week. And with that, each assignment, it's going to be assessed in a way that's designed specifically to ensure that those stated learning objectives have been fully addressed. And then next, we know we love technology, right? We don't want to use it just because we can, even though technology can be our best friend, but we want to aim to be very intentional with the options that we choose. So we're going to help guide you along in implementing the technology for your course, but we're also going to provide instructions for you and your students to be able to provide support where needed. And next, encouraging student engagement. We know this is like the big ticket question, right? That can always be a challenge. And this is the purpose of our discussions being a requirement. This is why I know, as Amanda mentioned also, that we have to show that they've been participating right there from the very beginning. That's why we have the getting to know you discussions. And this is how we encourage engagement and community in the online learning environment. And you may have noticed that our standards and our course template requires that we put the links to the institutional resources in the same place across every course. And we mentioned that already as well. And it's so students can very easily find these resources, no matter what course they're in. They're going to know on their homepage where to find their textbooks and how to get to the library. And so it's going to be consistent throughout their entire online learning environment here at ACU. And with this, that provides that ease of navigation that's going to keep students from focusing their time and energy on how do I figure out what assignments to do this week, and instead focus on learning the content and the materials to actually complete that assignment. Additionally, we work closely with the library to get PDFs, and we make sure that they are screen readable and that all of the videos that we insert into the courses, they have transcripts for students with hearing impairments. So with our standards that are already implemented in the course for you, we've provided these accommodations. So your course is already set up and ready to go for a diverse student population. We also strive to provide clear instructions on the expectations we have for students. So you'll find this provided in the standards and the content pages that are located at the beginning of the course and the introduction module. So the pages that we provide for students set clear expectations for various parts of the course, ranging anywhere from discussion expectations to additional guidance for specific class assignments or projects. So there is a method behind our madness on why we have these pages and how they're organized in a certain way. It's because we're making sure that students know very clearly what's expected of them and how to complete what they need to complete the course. And with our syllabus, we have certain course standard policies and institutional policies that are going to be included in all of the course syllabi. So this can be the late work policies, plagiarism, but we also additionally have rules set up in Canvas. So we have automatic late assignment policies applied in Canvas. We can set up, turn it in to account for plagiarism. So in addition to the policies that are clearly stated for students, we make sure that Canvas is set up in a way that benefits the faculty experience to help enforce that for students as well. And finally, one thing that isn't provided or automatically built into the course is the individual instructor contact details. So usually this is already accomplished though, as you teach the course or as the faculty member teaches the course through their announcements and things like that. And did I leave anything out, Amanda? Please fill in.
No, that's good. I'll take a pause here and see if anybody has any questions on any of these best practices, any concerns, questions at this point. Okay. So I kind of wanted to go through our standards. I know many of you have developed courses with us and are pretty familiar. This PowerPoint will be shareable, so I've linked kind of the respective standards here for you guys at the top. I'm going to start with grad because they inform undergrad. And so just kind of really at a high level, we already talked about a best practices to have objectives. So that is a standard in your courses. We're going to ask you to, we're going to ask your SMEs to write those standards, and we're going to help make sure that they're measurable. We use Bloom's taxonomy, and we're also going to make sure that they are mapped for assessment purposes. So then your program directors can all use that information when they have to do all of their reports. So that is built in intentionally. As you all know, we have standards around our reading and resources. And this serves two purposes. One is to make sure that our workload feels consistent for students. That's probably the biggest question I get asked from SMEs is like, how much work do I give them? How much is too much? How do I know I have enough? What does that look like for a 3 credit hour course, right? And that's going to be very different from a 100 level 300 credit course to a 700 level course, right? That it's going to be different, but we've established kind of some base guidelines to help address that question. And then with that as well, we want to make sure we're giving students enough, right? This is an online course. They don't have a session that they're meeting with their instructor. And so if we have, only 5 pages of reading for the week, I'm going to ask, is that enough? Did we give the students enough to be able to successfully demonstrate that learning objective that we asked of them? And so that's the purpose kind of behind that guideline. Same thing with course activity. Not only are we talking about workload, but we're addressing that attendance policy I mentioned earlier, making sure our students are demonstrating progress in their course so that they become financially eligible for their course. We're wanting to engage our students. That's done through discussions and assignments. You guys have seen both in your course. And we also make sure that everything's mapped and assessed properly. So we don't want an assignment in there that we're not able to say, yeah, we don't actually know what the purpose of that assignment was, right? So we want to make sure everything clearly has a purpose behind it. And then course design, that's really where instructional design probably takes a lead in helping lead some of those conversations. As Lacey mentioned, we try really hard to have all the accessibility pieces built into your course. So then you're not scrambling as an instructor when your student says, hey, I can't, this PDF doesn't work for me, right? That's a really difficult thing you're trying to teach. You got a student. We want to make sure all those pain points are eliminated before you get that course. We also want a consistent layout and providing those academic resources consistently to your students. So that way you don't have to be the expert on where to find all those resources. Your students will end up knowing where they all are because they've used them throughout your courses. Your student services team then, right, can also help direct your students. So they know where those resources are and they don't have to wonder, is it in this course or oops, did we forget it here? It's already built in. So that's kind of the graduate piece. All of those same things apply to undergrad. We took all those same standards and brought them over. We just tweaked them for workload levels, right? So the number of readings you're going to do for grad looks a little different than undergrad, right? But we still have reading requirement baselines. But for undergrad, we have some additional what I would call policies. And so that is really to help that student experience as they are taking courses across multiple programs. So we have a standard discussion question page. We allow some modification to that, but we have some strict guidelines around due dates, right? When those can occur, how those work so that a student has a consistent experience. We also have some standardized rubrics. Again, we allow some modification, but we do want to make sure students get credit for an initial post and a reply, right? And then we have a lot of those technology pages. And so we really try, especially in undergrad, to be really intentional about those policies, those procedures, what we're setting up for standards, to help our student, as likely they've been unsuccessful in school in the past, and we want to try to be as clear and straightforward with them and not have them trying to scramble between multiple courses. And then the other pieces that might feel a little different if you are a professor in both or a program director in both is the undergraduate courses have what we call purpose statements. All it is a one summary statement around why the students are doing that activity. The goal is so that the student can read that and understand, how does this fit into my course? They're understanding what they're supposed to get out of it. It works really great for your students because we know adult learners want to know why they have to do something. Our average student, right, is 35 years old. They want to know why they have to do this activity. And so it helps your students, but it also helps on the instructional design side, because if we can't articulate clearly what we're trying to have the student do or why we're trying to have them do it, we might need to rethink that assignment, rethink why we're doing that, because we're at the point, right, our classes move so fast. We only have 7 weeks to get the material. We're trying to focus on getting rid of I don't want to say busy work, but on those participation things. Well, I just want to make sure that they read their textbook. Rather, we're trying to have them focus on, well, I want them to apply their textbook, right? Let's get to the next level and have them assess, can they apply what they read? And then we also have summary pages. Again, it was an intentional addition for our adult learners to help them understand, okay, how does this week fit into next week? Where am I going? Are we switching gears? Are we building upon this? Oh my gosh, I need to make sure to get ready for an interview that I got to do in 4 weeks, right? So just really intentional conversations that we're having with our students in the courses, since we don't have that FaceTime with them. So, Brenda, anything on the chat? Okay. And then I just want to briefly touch on programmatic standards. So for many of you program directors, you may or may not know this, but most of you have programmatic standards in the grad programs. You may have inherited some from somebody else, or you may have written them. But essentially, the philosophy there is we created some base level standards for our grad program. But we knew that, especially in grad, depending on the program, we're going to really need to customize that. And so program directors with their faculty have created additional or higher level standards that they might hold their students to based on their program. So for example, in the EDD program, they have writing standards. Makes a lot of sense in a doctoral program to have some additional standards on writing that they want to see across the program. MBA, they have some standards around synchronous sessions, right? That's a part of their secondary accreditation. They have synchronous sessions. And so they have some standards to ensure that synchronous sessions happen the same way by every teacher in every course, right? So that's the goal of these programmatic standards, is to allow programs the flexibility that they need to change the standards when they need to serve their program and their program needs. And then those program directors don't have to worry about making sure every single faculty or subject matter expert knows about all those. Those are documented. They're passed to my IDs when they go meet with your faculty member, and we just make sure that they happen in your course automatically. So hopefully then you have to spend less time training some people. Those are updated as often as program directors need.
Okay, and you may be wondering also what is currently happening at other institutions, right? So I know everybody does things a little differently, and typically one center will manage the online learning for the entire college, like a teaching and learning center. You know, we have one for Dallas. Abilene has a center which covers instructional design and training, and so, yeah, this is the case at our school, excuse me. So we have our department, it handles the course design. And actually, I might need your help here, Amanda. Can you remind me how does Abilene differ from the Dallas campus?
Yeah, so Dallas, right at our institution, the Learning Design and Operations Center manages all of the online courses that come through our shop. Abilene also has a center, but the responsibility of online course development typically is handled by each college or department chair. So a little bit less centralized than our structure if you're working at both campuses or if I experienced both.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And so it is interesting to highlight that research has found a common trend among institutions that faculty are reporting a lack of resources and support and faculty development with the online course design. So one of the ways that our department is alleviating this is we've budgeted for instructional design support for all course developments and redesign. So if you, if as a program director want to redesign a course, we work to ensure that you have the budget to accomplish what you need for your department. And we've set up our process to complement that and make sure that your goals can be accomplished with the resources that we have. So while most institutions might not require collaborations with instructional design, ACU does actually mandate this, so it's not optional. And that's to ensure though that we have the support and the budget needed to support your goals as a department. And overall, it has become more common that institutions have standards and review processes for online course quality, such as ourselves here at ACU. So it's that this is great because it has been proven, as we've said, to positively impact course quality, and our process has been set up to support this goal as well.
Thanks, Lacey. So that's really how instructional design, our partnership with academic is. Our goal is to be a collaborative partner with academics. So we are trying to alleviate those course development and design issues to come alongside faculty and close any knowledge gaps in how do I do this for online. So in some ways, right, COVID was a blessing in that everybody got a chance to kind of experience online and get to experience. So I have far less people who are brand new to online, but I think so many folks have tried things out and they want to talk about, well, what went well, what went bad, and we can develop much better courses now, as we all have kind of had a chance to experience what online means. What I've linked here in this document is the ID and SME expectations at ACU. So if you develop a course with us, you will get a contract and it will outline what you need, and the instructional designer has a contract, and that's just the bullet points from the contract. So we have really clear expectations on what we want from each party and how they're supposed to work together collaboratively. So they are meant to be a complementary role. We are wanting you to meet with your instructional designer to work together on this. We want the SMEs, or the subject matter experts, to have the authority of the curriculum along with the program director of here's what should be covered, here's the best way to meet that learning objective. And we're here to help you with what works well for adults, maybe a different way to do an assignment you hadn't thought about, and to help you with the layout and design of your courses. So right now at ACU, ID partners with you in kind of three main ways you'll see. So we partner with you in the development. We do a quality review. So that's what myself and Lacey will start doing is so we've been charged by academics to enforce the standards that have been laid out and agreed upon. And then historically, we have held a seat on the course standards committee to advise to the standards that are written by academics. A quick plug here for my dissertation. I spent lots and lots of time on course standards, perceptions of standards, of quality. What does good design mean? How do people view quality? So if you want to have more conversations about that, I'd love to. I spent a lot of time talking to deans all over Texas about what they thought about course quality for online. So there's a link there if you're curious.
I highly recommend you guys. If you can't tell, she is the absolute expert in this area. So I'm grateful for that sharing as well. Okay, so now let's say we've got our courses all developed and we're ready to go, and they're online and they're offering. So what do we do next? How do we maintain the successful learning environment that we worked so hard to do? So our our department manages three main processes that help us accomplish this and continuously improve. So, and as I believe Amanda mentioned, these three links are hyperlinked and they're also available on our department website. The three main processes: you can submit a course ticket, a curriculum update, and a request to contract for a redesign. So the course tickets, this is going to be anything that needs immediate attention. So issues that you have with a live course that you are teaching with students in right now, that could immediately interfere or impact their learning, right? So if there's a broken link or a missing file that they need to complete an assignment, if you come across these, you can submit a ticket, and all faculty and adjuncts can submit a ticket. And we try to take care of these within 24 to 48 hours, depending on the research that we need to do to help make sure that we can resolve it for you. But we'll try to get those in as soon as possible. The next type of support we can provide are curriculum updates. And this is actually a two-part process. So first, this link will take you to a template that documents the work you want changed. So it'll have an outline set up for you to go in and write which parts of the course need to be updated. And then within that template is a link to submit a ticket for us to complete the work. So the template provides the information on what needs to be updated in the course. And then within that template, there's a link to actually submit the request to update your course so we can see it on our end. And this will cover corrections and updates needed for the upcoming term. So the next time the course runs, and it's important to remember that the program director does need to be the one to submit the ticket to the system. And this is so that we can ensure that the changes are approved. But please do know that, we encourage you to work with your faculty members if needed to complete the actual template. So as the faculty member or the program director, either one can work together to help update the instructions or update the information needed for the curriculum update. But when you submit the ticket, that's the one that actually does need to come from the program director. And then finally, the redesign process. So this is where you will be reworking an entire course. So the level of work can vary. Can be a phase 2, which is about 50% of the course or less is being redesigned, or a phase 3, which is the full entire course is being redesigned. But either way, we like to launch this process 3 to 5 terms ahead of time due to the project timeline. So in this redesign process, we will contract an instructional designer and a subject matter expert, the ID and the SME. And the subject matter expert is determined by the program director. So we have the program representative, I guess you could say, working closely with our instructional designer. So that really highlights the collaborative effort on the redesign process. And they work together over the course of 14 weeks. And that's why we ask that we have to have at least 3 terms ahead of time for this process. But you can start as early as 5 terms ahead. And so to contract for a redesign, or to request a contract for a redesign, we do need to ensure that the department has accounted for it in the budget. So, the program directors will submit for the budget to be approved. And Lori Ann sends that form out, and I believe it's in June, right? So be on the lookout in June. So we want to just send out a reminder that if you do have courses that you want to redesign, be sure that you account for it in your budget.
Thank you, Lacey. So why do we redesign? I love redesign. They are the best part of this job because the course is done, right? We've got something to work with, and now we get to make it better. So all the pressure's off. We have a Z course, and now we get to talk about what worked, what didn't, what we hate, what we love. And so this is where we have the opportunity to improve the quality. Maybe we had issues. Maybe an assignment didn't go super well. Maybe the industry had a whole big shift, and now we have to talk about that. There's huge updates happening. Maybe Abilene changed your course on you, and it's a shared course, and now you're forced to redesign, right? So there's many different reasons as to why we might have to go through a redesign. And so it all varies. A lot of times people ask me how council gets involved with redesign. So really, council gets involved if you're changing your course description, right? You're changing how your program maps to your student learning outcomes. But if you're tweaking a module or two, we don't go through council for that, okay? So redesigns, I get a lot of questions around when can I redesign? How does this work? So every 3 years, your course is up for a redesign. And so ACU has been wonderful in setting aside budget to ensure that every 3 years we can go through a redesign process for your courses. So like Lacey mentioned, you'll let, Lori know, hey, these are the courses I want to redesign. A lot of times people ask me, what do I pick? My advice here is, obviously, if you have a course that's like 8 years old, you might want to get that one on the radar, but think about the courses that have a lot of students in them. Which courses are being touched by your students all the time? I would prioritize that one. I'd prioritize an entry point course with the first course the student sees, right? Their first experience with you and ACU. That is a huge benefit to get that one redesigned. If you've got a course that you continue to see student or faculty complaints from, I'd pick that one. So there's a lot of ways in which you can be in contact with your faculty, your staff, your adjuncts to kind of make a list. I know a lot of people keep little notes, little cheat sheets around like, oh, this one was an issue. I'll probably slate that one. Please know if there's like a little small change, we can absolutely get that fixed through a curriculum update. And redesigns are really for when you want to change 50% or more of your course. So the program director will submit budget, then the courses that are redesigned are determined, and then during that process, program directors will select a phase. Lacey already mentioned this. I linked those documents here because I get asked a lot about, hey, what level of redesign should I do? My best advice to you is I can do an audit of the course from an instructional design standpoint and say, hey, your course doesn't have rubrics, your course doesn't have this, your course, right, doesn't have these things, these standards are missing, and I can give you a recommendation from the instructional design perspective. But then also talking with your faculty or the person who intends to redesign the course, if they're only going to touch, like we said, 50% or less, we'd probably say that, hey, that's just a level 2 redesign. If we're going to do a major overhaul, that's a level 3. So that's just kind of a way that influences, right, how much time we're spending on that course. Then we'll come into the redesign just like a course development. So we're going to have a kickoff meeting. We're going to talk about the course. We're going to talk about what went bad, what went well, what do we want to change? Maybe your program director has some specific things that have to be adjusted. Maybe I have some standards that have to be adjusted, like, hey, you guys don't have any rubrics, so we're going to do that for sure in the redesign, right? So there might be some mandated things that happen, and then there will be a lot of freedom in, which areas need to be adjusted. And then probably one of my favorite parts is starting to brainstorm around how are we going to solve it? Like, hey, this assignment didn't really work well. And then the group of us might talk, we might get some ideas. Your instructional designers have seen literally hundreds of courses across so many programs. So they have lots of ideas of how other programs have solved this issue, different activities they've seen. So please use them. And then one of my favorite things that I think will be coming out soon is Brandy Falls has been working so hard on collecting good data for our university. And I'm so excited to get to the point where we can, if you're going to redesign, let's say Psych 120, we could pull up the data from that course and say, okay, it looks like the assignment in week 3, everybody bombs. Let's focus on that assignment, right? So I think it'll be so important and so it'll be really helpful in our redesigns to start using some of the data we see come through in our courses to work back on our redesign to inform us on what to do. I am going to share some examples of what you might do for redesign. There's a lot you can change, right? Like the course is open, so it's sky's the limit, but here's some ideas around what people typically come to me with redesigns for. Oftentimes it might be changing a module, maybe a new theory has gone out of date, something's new, a huge trend happened. We got to get it more relevant now. I have some programs who are rethinking how they're doing discussions. So changing discussions in their program to be more informal. I've seen recently, what I call reflect and connect discussions, where they're trying to take out the yes or no answers and match it more to adults and connecting with adults and their lived experiences, right? So say reflect on your current work and connect it with the readings and resources. So changing it to kind of be more inclusive of what that student's experienced already in their professional experience. Assignments often are reworked. Maybe your course had all papers and we want to adjust that. Again, collaborate with your ID for ideas. I've seen everything from like choose your own adventure case studies where they click through and like for our nursing course, they have to solve this patient came in, they have to pick the right answer and they see if they got it or not. I've seen interviews, I've seen podcasts, I've seen worksheets. So all sorts of fun things that our faculty are developing for engaging. Rubrics often are a good one. If you taught the course and you're like, well, according to the rubric, I had a grade like this, but I didn't really wasn't how I intended. Rubrics are often updated as well. I've seen added video lectures, assignment video explanations if students just aren't grasping your written text there. New content pages being added to explain a concept more fully because maybe the book didn't do a great job covering it. And I've seen programmatic changes added. So some of our program directors put in like surveys for their faculty into their courses. And so that happens as part of the redesign process. So all sorts of good things there. Questions, Brenda, anything in the chat?
Yeah, there was one question from Melissa, and she asked, will there be any changes or updates to the course standards or ID processes for the Spanish language?
Melissa, no, because that is not part of this group. That's kind of a separate project, but we will connect on that. Anything else?
Anybody else have any other questions? Amanda, I know one of the things, and we've had these discussions about the difficulty in choosing. So Lacey went over whether we do a program, course ticket when things are emergencies. I get it if there's a broken link but what if there's a problem that you find out like mid-course with an entire assignment? So where's that line when we wait to do the the second level, right? As opposed to the quick course ticket that we're doing. Do you have any just more in depth, just because we're always trying to, okay, if it's a broken link, I know I can send it. They get it done super fast. I mean, your people are great about doing that, but like, where's that line for you between the easy stuff that can be done right now and the other stuff that needs to wait just until the next time around?
That's a great question. So I like to think, really for me, the line is a student experience. So if you have a quiz that has incorrect answers, right, that might be a pretty significant update, but that's going to really negatively impact your students. So yeah, we want to get that done ASAP for your students. If you have, an assignment instructions that, maybe through an announcement you could tweak and help kind of add some clarity to, we might save that for a curriculum update and then have you rewrite the instructions for the next term. I always think about that student who's in their class. Imagine if they logged into their course and all of a sudden their instructions look different and they already worked on their assignment, right? That's pretty jarring. Like, I thought that I was supposed to be doing this. And so we want to be careful about when we do those updates. And so if you're looking ahead in your course and it's week 7 and you're like, oh my gosh, like that assignment's not going to work, there might be some options for us to change that, but we just want to be careful about, some of your students might have already submitted it, they might have already started. And so really the course tickets is for that immediate, it's impacting the student, it's going to lead to a bad experience type of issue, right? And then curriculum update would be great for, hey, I just graded week 4. Wow, that assignment did not go as planned. You might immediately go ahead and submit that to a curriculum update to get us have that fix it in your course for the next time it runs. So really, I think of the ticket as live, curriculum updates as just, hey, if I had editing access, here's what I would fix really quick in the course, send those our way, we'll get those fixed. And then redesign is really like, okay, I've saved up enough pieces or I put up enough band-aids that like I've got enough work that I want to pay somebody to fix this, right? Because that's what we're doing. We're going to hire a SME and we're going to hire an ID and we want to pay somebody to spend some intentional time to work on this. Does that help, Brenda?
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
I think it's definitely one of the questions that come up.
Yes, for sure. Then the last thing I wanted to share here is just some kind of work that you guys are likely aware of, but that's happening around standards. So we there's been lots of conversations. I'm sure all of you had maybe at one point have been involved in, if you're in undergrad, looking at, we wrote standards for all of undergrad. And then we realized that probably didn't work so well because a 100 level course looks a little different than a 400 level course, and it should, right? And so we, there was a committee that was formed and are proposing some new standards for the 100 and 200 level. I know it's going to be voted on by the undergrad faculty. So that's an example of how these standards are changed or revised over time. It's not one person or one group. It goes through a committee and then it's voted on by faculty. So rest assured, like the standards aren't just going to like change one day overnight. You'll know about them, and we want lots of people to speak into them because they are important. And so as we know, it's important to keep our standards up to date. It's important to continue to look at them. I believe, and George maybe can speak to this, but I know we're looking at maybe having just a standing committee that regularly talks and reviews about this because it's so heavy and important to the work that we do here at ACU. And then, like I alluded to earlier, we're always looking at how we can do better at this. So I think data will be a huge way that we can really get some insight besides just relying anecdotally on like, well, this person said that this course went well, or I had 5 surveys, and of the 5 surveys, half of them had a bad experience, right? Like not having a lot, but being able to, maybe we pull grades, maybe we pull activity on a course and we say, wow, no student has actually ever watched this video in our course. What are we going to do with that, right? So there's so much we can do as we think about redesign to make our courses better. I've got any references here that I pulled from, so you're welcome to check those out if you want to see any of the research that was cited here.
Thanks, Amanda. For the data that you're talking about, because that's something obviously all of us are probably interested in for certain classes, is there a form or an email that needs to be sent if we want some data on a certain course while we're thinking about doing a redesign?
I believe Brandy has a intake form for data. I'm where you can request certain data to be pulled. I know I've been able to look at, the history of this course, from where it's run, and we can kind of look back and see different activities. You can also, in any of your courses, click on the new analytics link on the right-hand side. That will at least show you, as a program director, you can access any course in your queue, but as an instructor, you can also click on it in new analytics, and you can just see activities. You can see how many students have viewed a page. You can see all sorts of stuff. Let me see if I can pull it up quick. But that's a really quick way to, if you wanted to look at a specific course or the last time it's run, without having to submit a formal request. But yes, I believe Brandy has a link for that for her shop. What else?
Amanda?
Yeah.
I've always been under the impression we were supposed to hold curriculum updates if it was that level to the end of the course. But did I understand you just say just a moment ago, if I see week 3 needs something fixed in it, I can go and submit that as a curriculum update in the middle of the course?
You can submit it in the middle of the course. You can submit them at any time. We just do them by cycle. So if you submit it now for fall 1, it'll be in effect for fall 2. So
okay, but I can submit it while I'm thinking about it.
Absolutely.
To the end. Okay.
Yes, and we would actually love that, so we don't get bombarded with 500 at the end of term. So please submit at any time for us.
Thank you.
Yeah. What else? Anything else?
Hey, Amanda.
Yeah.
Has there been any conversation regarding the frequency of discussion threads? In the course that the 714 that I'm teaching, we have discussion threads weekly, and they don't unfold well. I feel like the students are pressured to jump through the hoop. And is there any conversation about a bi-weekly? Would that impact standard?
Right now, our discussion question, or our standards require 1 discussion question per week.
Okay.
Now, there is leniency around, is that graded? Is it ungraded? What does that look like? The discussions hold two parts. And probably one of the biggest one is trying to facilitate that engagement with the students, because we know a lot of online students, it can feel very isolating in that. And so some of our instructors are awesome, they hold office hours or synchronous sessions, or they try really hard to foster that community. So I've seen a lot of people get creative in what that looks like where they'll hold an optional synchronous session and like exempt people from the discussion if they participated in that. So we've kind of seen some new creativity happen with discussions. I think discussions is, I think it's an issue a lot of universities are trying to solve, right? And what do those look like? I've seen instructors try to make it more casual so that it feels more like I raised my hand in the class and talked versus I have to like basically type a mini paper out. So I've seen it kind of be restructured. And that would be a conversation with your program director and the faculty in that program to say, hey, we might want to do something different in our program. But we have a lot of leniency within the standards itself as to what that discussion looks like, right? And what we require of students in that discussion. So does that help?
Yeah, it does. Thanks.
Okay. What else? Okay.
Amanda, I just wanted to take an opportunity to give kudos. I don't really have a question, but I've done a SME experience twice, and I always feel so supported. And like somebody else mentioned, the kickoff meeting, Amanda, you bring in such enthusiasm and energy into the process, and again, feel very supported. I did one this last summer, and initially we thought it was going to be a level 2, but once we started unpacking, it was as Sarah put it, it was stripping it down to the studs and rebuilding. And I appreciated your support. We changed it to a level 3, and so just for anybody else out there who's considered or thought about it, just know that you'll be supported. And Amanda and her office does really great. I don't know if you ever need any actual quantitative data, but send me a survey if you ever come up with one.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you, Drew. We appreciate that. Our goal is to try to be a brainstorming partner, somebody to help you. And I've been lucky that maybe lucky isn't the right word, but I've gotten to read every single course at ACU. So I have seen a lot. I learn a lot from what everybody else is doing, and it's really fun. You guys, we have so many great faculty and program directors who have so much experience, and so it's always really fun when somebody gets to do something really cool, and I'm like, hey, you should do that over here. But yeah, I do get to benefit from that. And then I was going to really quick show you guys just on the home screen so you could see it if you didn't know where it exists. You should have a new analytics button here, and you can really quickly get a snapshot of your course. So you can see grades, you can see what sort of activities happening, how many people, what is the most viewed pages in your course, who's participating. So if you haven't checked that out yet, it's a really fun tool to kind of look at into your course. And so you can see, where activity might dip or where nobody maybe has participated in something. So again, that's just on your home screen on the left, new analytics.
All right. Well, Amanda, thank you so much. And Lacey too, for providing us some more information, and making our courses the best that they can be. So several people asked, the PowerPoint will be available. It will go out later along with the recording of this so that other people can watch it. And I just wanted to mention, so I believe that Kippy has put the survey from today's presentation. If you'll just go on there and tell us what you thought. We're constantly trying to figure out, what we need to be talking about in these presentations so that everybody can get the most out of it. Next month, we will be having a presentation titled Hitting a Home Run with Your Conference Presentation. It will be by Dr. J.D. Wallace, and we're looking forward to that. There's lots of us give presentations, and need some tips on that as well. So please join us for that. Thank you guys for being here today.
Thank you guys for having us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, everybody.